What is the root cause of the recent Israel-Gaza conflict, and how did it escalate so dramatically? The recent conflict between Israel and Gaza was ignited by a combination of long-standing tensions and immediate triggers. The key players in this clash were Israel and the Islamic Jihad, each playing their part in escalating the situation. The conflict was sparked by Israeli airstrikes, which were a preemptive operation against the Islamic Jihad. In response, the Islamic Jihad fired over 1,000 rockets towards Israel. This exchange of fire led to an intense situation, with both sides suffering losses. A notable feature of this conflict was the Israeli Iron Dome air defense system. This advanced technology intercepted rockets, preventing major damage in Israel. On the other side of the border, Gaza, home to over 2.3 million residents, lacked a similar protective shield. This imbalance in defensive capabilities contributed to the escalation and severity of the conflict. The fallout was significant, with casualties, displacement, and extensive damage marking the aftermath. How did a weekend of violence intensify the Israel-Gaza conflict? This is the question that haunts us as we delve into a specific period of intense violence that shook the region. It all started with rocket attacks aimed at Jerusalem, an action that sparked Israeli airstrikes in response, leading to a rapid escalation in the conflict. The Israeli military, in an attempt to neutralize the threat, targeted numerous sites, including rocket launching facilities, weapons manufacturing units, and a tunnel system. This, in turn, prompted a retaliation by the Islamic Jihad, a group that fired over 700 rockets, with some unfortunately landing in Gaza itself. During this weekend of violence, a remarkable defense system came into play. The Israeli Iron Dome, a marvel of modern technology, boasted a success rate of 97% in intercepting rockets. This system, designed to protect, served as a shield for Israel, preventing serious damage and loss of life. However, the casualties of this conflict were not just numbers. At least 43 Palestinians, including 15 children, lost their lives, with conflicting claims over responsibility for some deaths. These were not faceless statistics, but individuals with families, dreams, and hopes. It's important to note that the weekend's violence wasn't just a series of isolated incidents. It marked a significant escalation in the Israel-Gaza conflict, a conflict that has been marked by periods of relative calm, followed by intense violence. The fallout from this particular weekend saw dozens of deaths and forced Israelis to seek shelter, highlighting the human cost of such confrontations. In the face of such violence, one cannot help but ponder the complexities of this conflict and the devastating consequences it continues to have on the lives of those caught in its crossfire. The weekend of violence served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the urgent need for a resolution. This weekend marked a significant escalation in the conflict, leading to dozens of deaths and forcing Israelis to seek shelter. What has been the aftermath of the conflict and the international response to it? In the aftermath of the conflict, the toll on human life was devastating. 44 casualties were recorded, among whom were 15 innocent children. Over 360 people were wounded, their lives forever marred by the violence. Families were torn apart, with 40 families displaced and 650 housing units damaged, disrupting the lives of thousands. The international community responded with a flurry of activity. The Palestinian Authority presidency condemned Israel's military operation, voicing their outrage and calling for a strong response at a United Nations Security Council session. This was a plea for the international community to come together and address the pressing issue. The United Nations, in response, prioritized restoring fuel supplies to Gaza. The conflict had led to a shutdown of the power plant, causing electricity cuts and water treatment shutdowns. The concern was not just for the immediate violence, but also the long-term impact on the residents of Gaza. The role of other nations in the conflict was also significant. Iran, for instance, was seen meeting with the leader of Islamic Jihad during the clashes. Egypt, on the other hand, was instrumental in mediating a ceasefire, giving a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. The conflict also had implications for the political landscape. In Iran, the presidential election saw the rise of Ibrahim Raisi, a hardliner and favorite of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. This development potentially complicates the situation, as Raisi is known to oppose renewing the Iran nuclear agreement. In Israel, the Prime Minister made it clear that they would defend their people against Islamic Jihad, indicating a hard stance against the group. This statement, coupled with potential changes in Israel's government, could further shape the conflict in the days to come. As the dust settles, the international community is left grappling with the fallout of the conflict, and the search for a long-term solution continues. What are the main takeaways from the recent Israel-Gaza conflict? The conflict was triggered by a series of events involving the Israeli airstrikes and the Islamic Jihad's retaliatory rocket launches. The escalation of violence resulted in significant loss of life and extensive damage, particularly in Gaza. The international response was varied, with calls for a ceasefire and differing views on responsibility. The aftermath saw a bittersweet truce and the distressing displacement of families. As we reflect on the recent events, it becomes clear that the Israel-Gaza conflict is far from over, and the path to peace remains fraught with obstacles.